Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you're doing well, staying safe, taking care of those closest to you, and finding joy in your day-to-day. This particular weekend, I initially thought I didn't have too much going on, but turns out that I most certainly did. This particular weekend was fun. First off, I attended a wedding on Friday at the Boathouse in Brooklyn. Shout out to Maria and Jeff. Congratulations. That was a very fun time. And then on Saturday, I did technical rehearsal for the April edition of Backdoor Barbecue's of Backdoor Barbecue, the sketch show that I work with. As you know, that would be Mike Fogarty, Chris Miliaccio, and my friend Paul Cohen. If you are in New York City and you would like to catch what we are cooking up for you this month is our casino themed show. We will be at the Pit Loft in Manhattan on April 20th at 7 p.m. And then we will also be back at the Pit Loft April 22nd at 9 p.m. And if anyone is listening to this, that April 22nd show is the day before my birthday. So that would be really cool to see some folks out for that. So you can get your tickets at the Pit's website. I'll have a link for it in the description as well. And in the spirit of conversations I've had on this show that have included a comic that I have not talked to in a very long time, plays a pivotal part in my development as a comedian. My guest on today's show is comedian Rashad Bashir. Rashad and I met in 2010. I believe it was the winter of 2010. My first winter living in New York City is when Rashad and I met. We met at Radio City Music Hall when we were both working as ushers for the Radio City Rockettes Christmas show. And we bonded because we both were comedians, and we were both relatively new to comedy at the time. And we spent a lot of time together. I would do his show at a place in Harlem called Cafe Addis, and I would see him regularly at the open mic there. And then I did his birthday show, which is I learned a lot about that particular show that I did not know in the subsequent years, and it's very hilarious to me, kind of learning like some of the surroundings story of that show, and just kind of like the kind of things that you don't know when you're very new to stand up and are just kind of figuring out how to be funny, figuring out how performing works, how performing in front of reading rooms work, that kind of stuff. Like Rashad, we were there at the beginning, and it's been very cool. It's very cool to kind of see him, how he's grown and advanced since those times. And I especially love having chats like this on this podcast with comedians I haven't seen for a while. And Rashad and I had a blast. I really enjoyed having him on, and I'm looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. Before we get into the episode today, I just want to say one other thing I did do this weekend. If it is still in theaters near you, I saw a anime film called Suzumi, which is the latest from my favorite anime director, Makoto Shinkai, who's done the movies Your Name, 5 centimeters per second, Weathering with You. Some of you know that I have a framed poster of Your Name at my desk here where I record, and so that his work is like very much on my mind, and I really enjoyed his latest outing. And my wife went and saw it as well, and she really enjoyed it. And she is not the kind of anime nerd that I am, so I consider that exceptionally high praise to come from someone who's not as deep and a fanatic as I am. So, folks, thank you all again so much for being here. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you check out Rashad wherever you can find his stuff online. And I appreciate you all again so much for being here. And let's talk to comedian Rashad Bashir.
At Radio City, and she was working in the food and beverage
Mm-hmm.
department, us was guest relations,
Yeah.
and I was in the tailor shop at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, we were handing out uniforms and everything. And it was like, I'm in the window part where you pass the
Sure.
uniforms. This guy named Rich, he was sitting next to me, and we was talking about all the cute girls, all the new hires and stuff.
Yeah.
So one day, we're in the window, and this very bubbly personality type girl walks by. I forget what she asked for her, but we got to talk, and she's very smiley, and it's cute, and she winks at us, and then she walks away, and the guy Rich is like, I'm gonna get that, and I was like, nah, that's all me right there.
Now, you knew that, or you knew right then?
I knew right then.
That's beautiful.
I locked into her, and I didn't take her off my radar.
Mm-hmm.
So we wound up seeing each other in passing and stuff, and then one day we got out of work, and I see her.
Mm-hmm.
And I go up to her, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? What's up, Nicole?" Right? And she's like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" She didn't remember my name. That was, she told me she didn't remember a lot of people's names.
Sure.
So she would do this thing like, "Hey, how are you?" Yes, and we got to talking, and she was going to Brooklyn, and I was going to Strand Bookstore because I was collecting comic books at the time. So we're on a train, and we're talking and whatever, and as she's talking, she's very animated, and I'm just like, this girl is crazy. I like her.
Yeah.
So I'm just like that. So, and I remember she was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to Strand Bookstore. I'm going to switch to the F train. Because I think we were on the Q train or something.
Yeah.
No, she was switching to the Q, and I was staying on the F train.
Gotcha.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to Strand Bookstore." She was getting on the Q train. I didn't know it was closer. She was like, "Oh, I'm getting on the Q train, and you can." I was like, "No, I'm gonna stay on the F." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, and I was like, "Ah, dummy, that was your chance to keep it going." But I guess I was nervous in a way to talk to her and keep,
No, yeah. Because especially when you get that first bubble of excitement when you're interested in somebody, there's always that sort of kind of feeling that in the back of your mind. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So we met at Radio City. We really hooked up in 2011 of January 2011. We were kind of hanging out, and before that, and we went on a couple of hangouts. It wasn't dates; they were hangouts,
pre-dates. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went ice skating in December of 2010, and then we went to go see a movie. So we were kind of in that phase.
Sure.
The Christmas parties that they usually have.
Yep.
We kind of hooked up. She saw me dancing and everything. She was like, "Oh, you can dance." And so I'm dancing in the middle of the dance floor, and people going crazy around me, and my homeboy, he's kind of battling me, and she's like, "Wait, what? He can battle?" She's like, "Who is this guy?" So and then she started she was dancing with somebody else. I was dancing with somebody else. And we kind of danced a little bit with each other in that time. So at one point we're dancing with other people, and she comes up to me, or she's dancing with somebody, but she turns around. She's like, "I just want you to know that's mine." Talking about me. I was like, "What?" So I was like, "Well, goddamn it, that's mine then." So we kind of that's kind of
that's a good that's beautiful, man. That's a good confidence confidence boost. I know exactly what you mean. Like when a woman looks at you and it's just like, for me,
Yeah.
that's a good feeling.
That's
to kind of like, I'm like, oh well, great. I'm
uh
so excited to hear about this new development. And this was like in 2011.
yeah, this was 2011. Yeah.
Oh wow. So that was like, so this was probably a little around the time we met then, because I remember, and you bring up Radio City. I remember that window where you would go through to like get your like burgundy jacket
Yep.
so well, because I remember when I started working there as like the temp hire for the Christmas show. Um, for listeners know I'm really tall, and I remember they kept trying to find different jackets for me that would fit.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember, and I don't know if it was you or not. I don't think it was, but I remember getting handed a jacket, and then like the sleeves came up to like my wrist.
Oh,
And then they went to go to try to get me another one that fit down where it's supposed to, which is a little bit after. And I put it on, and the sleeve like comes up to like halfway down from my elbow, like even further up, and everyone in the line just starts laughing.
Yo, they were doing us dirty. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Shout out to the tailor shop if y'all listening to this. But
you did the best with what you had.
Because I started in 2006.
Uh-huh.
And I remember like when they fitted me for pants, I had on capris. I didn't even have on pants. Like they were
Right.
well above my ankle. And I was just like, oh, I guess this is my uniform now. And then when they started to like me, that's when they gave me regular pants. Was my initiation to like, nah, let them look like Urkel and for a little while, and then they gave me baggy pants, and then I went to become an MC Hammer, and then it was like, nah, Rashad, we like you, we gonna give you regular pants. I was like, y'all could have gave me that from the jump,
from the beginning. I hope that they didn't make you like go outside to direct people.
Yes, they did.
In the capris in the middle of the winter in New York. There are heat lamps, I think, at Radio City, but they don't really do a ton.
No.
So you're just out there freezing, just saying here, right this way, like directing like a few thousand people.
Yeah.
Every night, or like total 6,000 on matinee days, and it's just, oh man, my god.
The worst spot, like under the marquee, was cool because you had the heat right there. But if you go to the corner of 51st and 6th Avenue, that's where no heat at all. Like you're out there with a sign, you got snot bubbles in your face. You got this little smelly Radio City jacket on that you're pretty sure they didn't wash, so you're kind of scratching at the same time, and you're freezing.
Right. It's like straight out of like the 70s, and this jacket, I would describe as like very Tower of Terror-esque. Like it is very much from like somebody could have probably died in it in a horrific way, and their spirit haunts this jacket. It's like very Art Deco, because the whole building's Art Deco, and yeah, it's pretty much the same uniform from like the 70s.
I can't tell you how many times we done found napkins, flyers, pens. We done found bow ties just in the pockets. Like I think I found money one time.
Oh, that's nice.
I found like $5 in one of the pockets. I was like, oh man! I was like, you know what? Let me help somebody else lose some stuff in these jackets.
Oh my! That job was because again, I got that job. I was like scraping. Like I was just like, my savings were dwindling, so I was like just piecing together every little thing I could do, like extra, like. I've got a couple weeks of steady thing here, and then I'll find a gig on lawn order as an extra for another $100. Like that just fresh. I was very fresh to the city, and like all right, I'm gonna suffer and do the thing, but I'm here because I have a burning desire to do comedy in New York City and to
Okay.
live in New York City. And I didn't know this. So when we met, so again, this is back in 2010, you were new to stand up.
I was very new to stand up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're like a year in, when I moved, I was like maybe two and a half years in, and I really want to get this on tape as well, because one of the places where we kind of like spend a lot of time,
Yeah.
was at a place in Harlem called Cafe Addis,
Yep.
which was an Ethiopian place.
Yep.
And I remember going there every Monday.
Every month. Oh man.
That was
faithfully.
that was like my spot on Mondays. Like I would hit up like the Creek a couple times a week. I would do the Perch Cafe on Sundays.
Okay.
But Mondays I was at Cafe Addis.
Yeah. Yeah. Cafe Addis was such a great spot, man. Want to give a shout out to Alex Barnett and Kevin J. Williams, because they were the ones that were running that open mic, and it was like always packed.
Yeah, I remember, like, I feel like I always got a lot out of doing that mic. I remember, I haven't seen Alex in forever, but I really felt like when I got to New York, I was really kind of like trying to maybe not evolve, but I was trying to like do more than just deadpan one-liners, and I was still doing a lot of that at that time. But I feel like like that was the place where I started to kind of like experiment a little bit as far as like just doing comedy, like not as that sort of like monotone performance on stage. But I really want you to, I really want to hear the story again. So we were talking before we got on mic here.
Yeah.
Because you did your a birthday show at Cafe Addis.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to clarify. So did I like ruin the show and not realize it, or was I, or did I just make your parents start questioning your choices?
No, it was okay. So if you're listening, you could probably tell by my voice I'm black. Just it was my family. They listen to a specific type of comedy, a specific type of genre of comedy. All right, put it this way. If you're at a place and they just play R&B, hip hop, and they play like, jazz, and then you throw Val Hallen in the mix, and they're like, "What the?"
Like, yeah, something sticks out.
Yeah, so that's kind of what it was. But you got to understand, at the time, I can't differentiate as far as what's funny to me and what's funny to my audience.
Right.
So I'm just going off of who I know is funny and who I like.
Yeah.
And I put Will on the show, and I was like, "Wait, what the hell is going on?" I was like, "That's hilarious. That's funny." And the rest of my family was like, "Nope." I was like, "Damn, what?" But then as I gained more experience, and I started to see myself and started to come into who I was like, oh, there's certain things that my audience isn't going to get from somebody else that they can't really like relate to.
Yes, like there's definitely like I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of describe this, like, and I definitely am aware of this of myself at that time. I was like, I definitely was, and my stand up, I think, was like maybe not super accessible. Like I think now about like comics, like big comics I like, like that are super successful, like the Gabriel Iglesias, the Russell Peters, like folks like that, or like Ali Wong. That's the material is all stuff that like a regular person can relate to. Like I was very much, I think, I don't even want to say like a back the room kind of person, because that gives me too much credit. But I definitely think at the time I definitely think I was doing a very kind of like if everyone else was like at a driving range shooting shotguns, like like a lot of spread, like a lot of wide range.
Yeah.
I was shooting a bow and arrow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember because if I bombed that set, I feel like I would have remembered it because apologizing to you, but I didn't realize that you're
no need to take it.
Well, so I'm curious. So what kind of did your parents were fans of comedy before you started doing comedy?
Absolutely.
And so what kind of comedians did they listen to? Like, what did your parents do when you were growing up?
Like my parents, so my dad was a chauffeur.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he drove a lot of celebrities around.
Cool.
And my mom, at the time, she was a hairstylist.
Uh-huh.
So, growing up with my family dynamic, we lived in the Bronx for a little bit. I had my grandmother at the time, she had a 5-bedroom apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our family would like move in to like kind of get their situation together, then move out.
Uh-huh.
So, living with my grandmother, living around my cousins and my aunts and my uncles, I saw it, I noticed that they used to watch In Living Color a lot.
Uh-huh.
Used to watch Martin
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And I didn't understand what they were watching and why they were laughing. I mean, like In Living Color was funny. It's still funny till this day.
Yes. That show is timeless.
Timeless. So, I'm watching them watch these shows and I see these characters and I'm just like, oh, that's funny. I get why it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came across BET Comic View.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I didn't realize like what they were doing and how are they talking to a room full of people and making them laugh. I didn't grasp that.
Right.
So I was
like
just
the concept of stand-up
correct
as a show. Okay.
And I was like, I want to do that because it looked like a superpower.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? When you like don't know, when you're not familiar with it, it kind of is.
It was this thing like it was like magic. It was like a superpower. I was like, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. So I remember like my parents were always talking about like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
These are names that I was always hearing, and I was always hearing Paul Mooney a lot of the time. And I was like, who are I just thought it was people we knew that was in our family. Like I didn't
right.
But then the older I got, I was like, oh, Eddie Murphy on on TV.
On TV with the red suit or the purple suit, depending if you saw Delirious or
right, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Well, and I first got introduced to Eddie Murphy in Harlem Nights from the movie Harlem Nights, right? Uh-huh. And then after Harlem Nights, it was what my mom, she showed me Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this dude is an actor, and I didn't understand that world yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing jokes. I tried to write jokes, and I tried to tell my parents. I remember telling my dad, I forget what joke I told him. And I wrote it down, and I told him, and he was like, okay. Yeah, work on it. I was like, oh, well. I was like, this is a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was like 9. When I was 9 years old, that's when I first saw a BET Comic View. I was 9 years old. I said, I want to do that. And every time I watched Comic View, I would always like tell the joke that one of the comedians said, and I would tell it to my friends. And my friends, they between the ages of like 8 and like 11. Mm-hmm. So they be like, Rashad, I heard that joke before. I heard that joke before. I was like, yo, what is going on?
Oh, wow.
So
your friends were like serious comedy fans.
Yeah. I'm like.
At like 8 and 9. Wow.
I'm like, it was new to me. And I had to realize like a lot of times when, in the 90s, if somebody wanted to hurt your feelings, they would talk about you. They make fun of you, your clothes and how you look. And
Oh yeah, I
And
know.
when I used to get roasted, I used to get upset. I had a bad temper. I'd be ready to fight everybody. I'm screaming, I'm crying, and I just realized like, oh, Rashad, you was just a bitch. Like you didn't have you didn't know the concept of like roasting.
Right. Yeah.
So it was just people making fun of you and hurting your feelings. And I was just like, how do I get them back? Because I don't know.
Right. Because like you can fight, but you don't want to get in trouble. So like, what ammunition do I have? And
Right,
then, of
that was
course,
the
it's
problem.
like,
I couldn't fight. So I just had to take this and
uh-huh.
have my feelings hurt and tell my mom. And she'd be like,
Uh-huh.
he said, stop making fun of my son or I'm going to call the police. Like, Mom, that's not a police calling moment.
No,
Like,
that's like you gotta settle it so that it like
yeah, man.
resolves itself. Yeah.
I was such a sensitive kid, but all of that
Mm-hmm.
flipped like junior high school when I saw how like diabolical teens could be.
Oh, yeah.
Like to the core, to your self-esteem. It was just
Mm-hmm.
one of them things. You had to be armed with jokes.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
the funny person always got the respect
Mm-hmm.
in junior high school and into high school.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm really really into that because like I was tall, so I was absolutely a target for getting bullied. People wanted to fight me to prove they were tough. Never did. Like stood up to a lot of like relentless physical taunting. I got a black eye once from a kid. Like it was bad. So like I had to develop sort of like not only can no heckler hurt me now. It's just like you're not as bad as Stephen Gray in the 7th grade. But
yeah, you still know his name. Damn. Trauma.
That stuff that stuff leaves an impact anybody who's listening. But and then as I got into and when I got into high school, and I like to make sure I give his just credit. My best friend Chris started doing theater, and then really like kept pushing me to do it. I didn't do it freshman year, and he kept pushing into sophomore year. I was like, fine, okay, I'll come try out. And then that's where I found my people. That's where I found like my place. It's like, all right, and I was like excited to work hard for the first time because I didn't love team sports. Got made fun a lot there, but when I found like when we all kind of got together, that's how I felt about comedy too. Is I was like, okay, this is like I found like my place, my community.
Right.
Are there any comics from were there any specific comics from Comic View that you remember, like really grabbing your attention?
Oh man, the one guy, it's actually two of them.
Mm-hmm.
This guy named Arnesh J. He's Arnesh J. and Tony Roberts. Like Arnesh J. Arnesh J. and Tony Roberts are physical comedians.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Roberts, he's just got these like quick, fast one-liners, like real. Put that with physicality, and I was just like, I need to do that. I want to do it like that. And Arnesh J, he's just like physical. He's got written material, but his written material is so covered with physicality that I was like, that's the kind of comedy I like. That's it right there.
Yeah, like really sharp joke, and then you can punctuate it with
act outs.
Yeah, with an act out, with some physicality. Like you're almost like adding a little bit. To me, that was when I realized putting that together. That's like the combination of writer and performer.
Yes,
that's where it really starts happening.
Yes, and I was like, I want to do it like that because little do you know, I was a theater kid.
No way.
I was a theater kid from what's that 90? I think 98 to 2000. Yeah, 98 to 2009.
Okay, so all right then. So this is like, so if you discover comedy when you're like 8 or 9, so you're also doing theater in that kind of age range as well.
Right.
And did you like do theater all through high school?
Yeah.
Up till 2009. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay. What shows did you do?
The
If you remember any.
first. Oh man. So the first one I did, it was called the Laramie Project.
I am very familiar with that one. That's a very heavy show.
The Laramie Project. I did that one. Before that, I was doing it. Before that, in 2004, I was doing. It was like a double play. It was like we were doing like a double play. One was called Bang Bang You're Dead, and the other one was called Now You See Me. So this was at the time of a lot of like high school shootings,
right,
that were happening across the country. So we were doing plays based on that,
right,
and those were my first 2 lead roles, and I was just like, oh, I really like this. I really liked. I was really more into the funny roles, but I never got the funny roles because it was always like a serious play.
Sure, yeah. Well, dealing with like hate crimes against gay people and school violence,
Yes.
So you're getting getting thrown into the deep end in terms of material.
Yo,
that's a learning experience. I actually genuinely think that sounds valuable to tackle this kind of stuff and kind of be absorbed in, because it's the real world.
Yes, yeah, and looking back on it, I'm just like, wow, I really delivered in those roles. I really delivered. Then so it was. So first we did Bang Bang You're Dead, Now You See Me. Those were dual plays, and then after that we did the Laramie Project, and then after the Laramie Project, I did the Crucible, where I played Governor Danforth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I played an asshole. Pretty much.
Yeah, that's a great part.
And then the last one that I was in was The Grapes of Wrath, where I played the man going back. I don't know. You ever read The Grapes of Wrath?
It's been a while.
Okay, so when the family is going out west to look for like jobs, they're like traveling, and there's like a man. He's going back the other way, and he's like, "There's no jobs out there."
Right, so he's trying to get back to the East Coast.
Right.
Okay.
So I played that guy, and I played a I think like a marshal or a cop or something, where they were like checking people's like cars if they were like carrying anything illegal. I forget, but I was like, nah, I want the funny roles. I want the funny roles, and then somebody suggested, Rashad, just do stand up. I'm like, is it that easy? I'm like,
yeah. And in New York, especially, this is all still happening in New York. Yes.
Yes, all in New York.
And how old were you when this person suggested doing stand up?
Oh, so the preference. I'm jumping back and forth.
Oh no, it's all good. And then we're also got to catch up on all the last 10 years.
Yes. So my first official set, it was February 2004. It was a Valentine's Day talent show.
Okay.
I did stand up for like 17 minutes. No material. No material.
I know those.
That's where I really got the bug at. That's where it really was. It was high school, 2004 February, Valentine's Day talent show, and my talent that I put down on the list, I said I'm gonna do comedy. So I get up there. I'm nervous. They got music playing and stuff. I get up there. I start dancing and stuff. They cut the music off. I'm literally just roasting teachers, doing impressions of teachers. I did an impression of the principal. I did impressions of the teachers. I'm like talking about the kids in my class, and they're just eating it up. And I was just like, yo.
Oh yeah, like to have everybody's attention and to be making fun of the authority figures
Oh,
and being rewarded for it. Oh yeah.
so that's where I
Dude.
really started.
You get to feel like a rock star.
Yes, and I felt like one.
Uh-huh.
And then, so before that, the dean at my school at the time, he was a stand-up comedian.
Really?
He was a stand-up comedian,
Mm-hmm.
and he had an after-school program teaching the students how to do stand-up.
No shit. Cool.
Yeah, so we was in there. We was writing down like notes on a piece of paper. I kept that piece of paper for like 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And then he was gone. Like 2003, he was gone.
Right.
So I kept that piece of paper and I was like, yo, I want to do stand-up. And then 2004, February, I was like, I'm going to do stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
Got up there. I was trying to write stuff down, but I was nervous. I didn't know what to talk about. And this girl in my class, she was like, Rashad, just get up there and say it. You're better off the cuff. You're better freestyling. So I was like, all right, cool. So I got up there, 17 minutes, did impressions, talked about the students, made fun of the teachers. And then I saw somebody on the side like wrap it up. I was like, oh, all right, I got to get out of here. And then I got off stage, I ran off, and I don't remember anything I said because the first time you're getting up there doing stand-up, you're just saying stuff, and you get off, you're like, what the fuck did I just talk about?
I know.
You just blank out.
Yeah, it's just like that happened and I survived, and I'm buzzing a little bit. Yeah.
But you catch that bug, you're like, I got to do it again.
Oh yeah, that bug is serious. That like there is nothing like the rush from like just going up and having like, especially those sets where you like really like crush.
Yes.
And you have those like waves of laughter and like you just everything hits. There is just no, there isn't a substance you can inject. There isn't a thing you can jump off of and parachute down from that's going to replicate that. It's just like the greatest thrill. You like for that moment, you are the god of that stage. You are you are just the king of the castle. It's incredible.
So I nominated myself. I'm like, I'm the funniest dude in high school. So a year later, there's another talent show. And I was like, you know what? Let me get up there and do the same thing I did last year.
And what year are you by now?
I am a junior.
Okay.
I'm a junior in high school. So that was that was 2004, my sophomore year. So 2005 is my like junior year, and they had a talent show, and I was like, I'm gonna do comedy. Did not work.
There's always the one that keeps you going, and then there's the reality check.
Yeah.
So you go up there and flail.
I thought they were gonna respect me the way that they did last time.
and now didn't
man. And I was like, reality check. Because it was more the student body there this time. And I was like, I'm gonna get up there, I'm gonna crush it. Got up there, did not know what to say. They all staring at me. I'm trying to say stuff, and they're just looking at me like, shut up. Like I was like,
right. It's like that feeling like when you have an idea for a joke and you don't quite have it all mapped out yet, and you're like, I'm just going to go up there and it'll come to me on stage. It doesn't come to you on stage.
It does not come to you on stage. Because you get up there and, a lot of people say, I can do stand-up. I'm like, can you?
Right.
Can you really break past getting on stage and having to look out into an audience and have them stare back at you, waiting for you to say something funny, and in your head, you're like, oh, shit, is this really going to be funny? And then your first couple of words that you say to them, and they don't laugh, and now you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Especially like if you're trying to formulate a thought you haven't articulated before.
Yes.
I tend to jumble my words a lot and stutter. I have to like really plan out like what I'm gonna say and have some thought on it,
Yes.
or otherwise I just go up there and seem like like it just never works. And so how long did it take you to recover from that?
Oh,
Because I imagine
5 years. Yeah.
because I mean I high school was a lot better for me from middle school, but I high school kids in New York I've heard are notoriously honest.
Forget about it. So this is what
Were you like, I'm gonna move? I have
No,
to. I have to move.
what I said was I have to do this right. I have to do this right. I have
Yeah.
to I have to write stuff down.
Yep.
So what I did was, this was the time we still had cassette tapes.
Uh-huh.
So I had a radio that had a record function on it.
Right.
So I put a cassette tape in, and I hooked the microphone up to the radio, put the cassette tape in, hit record, and I'm just telling jokes like this.
Yeah.
Like to myself in my room. I'm just saying stuff that I thought was funny to me.
Right.
And it was kind of like my first podcast in a way, and didn't even realize it. And I'm just in there telling jokes, you know, saying stuff that I thought was funny to me.
Yep.
And I'm listening back to it, and I was like, "Oh, this is terrible." I'm like, "What hope do I have?" And then I found an open mic.
This is the first outside of school open mic?
Outside of school open mic.
Okay. As a junior in high school.
So fast forward.
Okay.
It was an open mic. I really tried comedy in like 2009 while I was still doing plays.
Okay.
Right. So it was like 2009, and this other actor that was in the same show as me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yo, I want to do stand up. He's like, oh, word. He said, yo, there's this place. He told me about the place. It was Charlie O's. It was this spot called Charlie O's.
Okay.
That was on 45th and 8th.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if I knew that place when I was here.
It was still there.
It was still there. Okay.
And it was this guy named Joe Franklin. He had like a radio show back in like the 40s.
Okay. Oh wow.
And he made his own comedy club in the back of his restaurant.
Cool.
So he told me that, they have this comedy open mic, go there and perform. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went, and I had to pay like $3.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the time Akash Sin was coming up.
Okay.
So Akash, he was like really doing his thing. I didn't know who he was at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just some guy that was just like, okay, I'm here to do, stand up and whatever. So I had no concept of the light. Didn't know how much time I was supposed to get. Didn't, so I'm there. I'm doing what I thought was comedy.
Sure. Yep.
And I was just like, okay, this is bad. This is not good. But to me, I was just like, oh, I'm doing it.
Right.
And then I get off, and they had to give me the light a couple of times. I didn't understand what that was.
Well, but yeah, because if no one's told you, then you have no idea.
So I came into comedy very cold, and I had to learn along the way. I had to, a lot of bumps in the road, and like nobody was telling me anything. And if they was, they were kind of like, just keep doing what you're doing, because they didn't want me to progress.
Yeah, there's always that, like, people like, because starting in New York, especially, like I feel this way about, like, I would imagine starting in New York or Los Angeles. You're starting in like presumably like industry towns or like big markets for art. So that's difficult, number one, because like I had the luxury of starting in suburban Baltimore, where the open mics feel more like shows. There's like an audience, and they react to stuff like a show. It's not like a bunch of like apathetic. It wasn't like a bunch of apathetic comedians. I haven't been there in a while, but yeah, it's just trying to figure out like what's funny in front of just that wall of indifference is hard enough on its own. And then especially if no one is gonna be like, oh, hey, if the light does this, then that means you gotta get off stage, or like, even just figuring out what a setup and a punchline is, and then trying to, on top of all of this, finding like your own take on what comedy is and the stuff you want to talk about,
Right.
so that you're unique. Um, it's a miracle that anybody sticks at that does this.
And I said to myself, this comedy is gonna get me out of my situation. This comedy is gonna take me. Because I had it there. I was like, I'm gonna get good at this. This is something I love to do. This is something I'm passionate about, and I'm gonna go do it. My first open mic that I started doing consistently was at the old Eastville.
Yes, the back on 7th or 8th Street.
East 4th Street.
East 4th Street. That's
so now
right.
that it's the
New York Comedy Club.
Right.
Yep.
So I was going there. I was going there, and I was going in thinking, I'm the funniest dude ever. And then I get in there, and it was like I was not the funniest dude ever.
Yeah, it's because you're around so many of, like, I feel like even like a mediocre New York comedian is like so much funnier than maybe like if you started in a small town. Like there's just and then you also have all these like working professionals who come to like work on stuff as well. It's an intimidating environment. I got a great story about Eastville.
Please, let's share.
The first time I think the second time I ever came to New York to do comedy was at a bringer at Eastville. And it was one of those things of like, I had like a couple of friends that lived in New York at the time. So I was like scraping because I really wanted to say I performed in New York.
Yeah.
And I remember like, I think the producer had some sympathy for me. So I got up and I did the set, and Todd Barry happened to drop by on one of those shows. And in my like naive, like infant comedy brain, I had like a resume, and I really put open for Todd Barry on it. And I just want to, looking back on that now, I just want to smack myself. But like, because again, no one ever told me like what's really opening for somebody. Like it's sort of like the music equivalent would be like, oh, I headlined at this place. There's no such thing as headlining on a Tuesday.
No.
It's just not the same.
Not in front of 3 drunk people that are like trying to figure out how to quit their job or kill their boss. They're like, no.
Exactly. And sometimes they figure out that's the way to quit their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh,
that is funny.
Oh, dude. Yeah. So you started going and doing that regularly. And how old are you when this? I'm
22.
22. Okay. So that's we're not too far off as far as our timeline, because I was like 23 when I moved here. I'm born in '86. And yeah, I remember hitting that Eastville spot a couple times, and then the other New York Comedy Club on, I think, 23rd or 24th.
24th, yeah.
Right. And I remember going and doing like 4:00 mics there on weekends. Or some I'm trying to think of some of the other good. Or back when I lived, when I first moved here and was in Brooklyn, I'd take the G up to the creek, and the creek took me a long time to feel welcomed at. So I would go and do that. I don't intend to blow every spot. Do you ever do Gladys's spot at the comic strip?
I've never done Gladys's spot.
Okay, I did it once, and then I had a couple friends do it from out of town do it, but. The comic strip and I have a weird feeling about the comic strip.
Really?
It's like I respect it and I like it, but man, and I was just talking about this recently, but that audition show that they used to do, like when you go and line up around the block, with every other open micer in New York, and then back in the day when they would used to have like a comedian panel. And you would get like picked apart, and you would get like absolutely like not even necessarily about your act. It would just be about like your general appearance and personality.
Oh, man.
Just picked apart on stage in front of whoever was left over from the show.
Wow.
And it was character building to put it politely.
That was just target practice for the panel. Let's just say what it was.
Exactly.
Question: When you did you do the show?
I did. I did it 3 different times. The second time they had stopped doing the panel, but I did it with the panel one time.
Okay, so on your panel, who did you have?
I had Dante Nero,
Oh,
Modi, and Dustin Chafin.
Oh, wow. I'll tell you who I had.
Okay.
I had JR.
Uh-huh.
Paul Mercurio.
Uh-huh.
You ready for this?
Uh-huh.
Patrice O'Neal.
Patrice did used to do those.
Yes. Yeah. I had Patrice O'Neal, man.
Okay. I imagine he said the most hurtful thing you have ever been told.
Funny thing. You ready for this?
Uh-huh.
I'm the only black comic on the lineup.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And so all these other comedians, they had, like, there was one comedian, he said he'd been doing it 8 years. They like
Michael Shockey.
You remember who that?
I remember that guy. I remember him well. And I remember that specific tape because I think Harrison Greenbaum was on that one as well.
Wow.
That got onto YouTube. So I remember seeing that, and I remember seeing.
So Sherrod Small was the host.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut in on this.
No,
yes,
no. So you all right? So you okay? So the first couple of comics bombed, like and the panel ate they ass up. Like, yo, dude was doing it 8 years and wasn't getting anything, and they were like, "You've been doing it 8 years, and you got this thing on your foot, and you want to talk about a spider bite on your?" I was like, I am nervous.
Yeah.
I go out like everybody is there for somebody else. I get out there and I start ripping. And I'm like, boom, I'm hitting them. They loving me.
Great.
And I think I started doing crowd work a little bit because it was going into my next joke. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I hit it, boom, got the laugh, done. I'm standing there. JR was like, it was a good set. He's all right. You're new, and boom. And he's like, and Paul Mercurio, he's like, yo, I've heard that kind of black joke before. Tell me a different kind of black joke. And he's like, I've heard that type of black joke. And Patrice O'Neal's like, yo, fuck these white comics. Do your black jokes. All right? Don't listen to what they say. Do your black jokes. And he was like, you do black rooms, right? And I was like, yeah, which was a lie. I wasn't. right. I was not at all.
Uh-huh.
But he was like, yo, don't listen to them. Do your black jokes. And I forget if it was Paul or JR. He was like, are you taking up for him just because he's another black comedian?
Uh-huh.
And Patrice was like, yes, I am. Yes. He's like, what the fuck you want me to do? He's like, nah, don't listen.
Uh-huh.
He's like, do your black jokes. And that was confirmation for me.
Yeah.
That was in September. And then he passed in November.
I know I remember he had like the stroke pretty soon after that.
Yeah.
I remember it. Oh man, like you got like praise from like one of the greats on his way out. What a and I gotta be honest, I agree with him. I agree. I mean, not to sound like I'm like I'm super down or cool or Patrice would like me at all, but like I do agree with the idea of like fuck white people trying to tell you what to do as a black comedian.
Yo, and it was just like it was what I knew. It was, what my personal experience was. And they laughed.
Yes, exactly. And that's all you can do as a comic if you're trying to be the best comic you can be, is talk about your personal experience and the way you see the world and have lived your life.
Right.
That's the only way to do it. So I think in a way like it seems like you've carried that through this thing. So
yes.
I'm glad that you had that experience, because I have heard I remember like because I remember that video from the guy you're talking about when Patrice is like, I can't recommend you keep doing this, man.
Yo, Yes, that was exactly what I heard. That was exactly what I heard. I was like, this guy's been doing it 8 years,
Yeah.
and he didn't do good. It blew my mind because I'm like, you've been doing this for a while. When I hear 8 years, I was like, oh, this guy's famous.
Right.
Anybody like I'm a year in, so when I hear comics that's doing it 9, 10 years, I'm thinking they're on TV, they're on Comedy Central, they're everywhere, And then I see them taking the subway. I'm like, huh? I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, like I remember having that cognitive dissonance as well, where I was like, "Wait, you write for the Daily Show, and we're on this. You're here, or like I've seen you on TV. I was at the TV taping where you performed on. Like, yeah, it's like, it's a weird kind of like another kind of reality check. Reality check.
Reality
for
check.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and did you get past for late night after that?
I didn't get past for late night. I did like second best.
Okay.
Like for the night because the guy that went up after me, it was his audience.
Right.
It was his crowd. It was his people.
Mm-hmm.
So I did stay. I didn't get past.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get past.
It took me a couple of times to eventually do it. But I've got to say, as much as it hurt at the time, like what they said was like probably not the worst. Dante Nero, if I would love to have him on and hash some of this out, just to kind of hear where it's coming. Because like I ran into him again the other time. He was like, "Oh no," it's like they kind of tell us to do that.
Wow.
So, but like I think I remember somebody yelling showmanship at me. I can't remember if it was Modi or Dustin.
Okay.
But not terrible advice because I was very modeling myself on like the Dimitri Martins and the Mitch Hedbergs. It's like those guys don't have to run around and like run around the stage or do like pick up the stool or what have you. They just stand there and tell jokes. So I was trying to do that. But I think there's definitely a way, especially for that like nightclub kind of stand up. Certainly moving around a little bit and putting a little bit like inflection in your voice is a way to engage a tired, drunk audience.
Absolutely,
for sure. It's a good skill set to have or in your bag of tricks for sure.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Oh, the open mics, the money that was being spent, going from mic to mic in the city.
Yep.
Like hole in the walls, like basements, you would go in bars, and I can understand why comics get so bitter, because no one's giving you feedback on how to get better.
Yeah,
because comedy is very competitive.
Competitive and subjective. Yeah.
Yes. And so, you don't want to give information to somebody and then they take it and run with it and now they're getting all the gigs. You're like, fuck, I shouldn't have said anything. But at the same time, what's meant for you is meant for you.
Yep.
Stay on your own path and, help those that seek your insight. Like me at this point, this is my 13th year. Instead, August 29th, Michael Jackson's birthday, makes 13 years for me. So I'm at a place where I'm the OG now. I'm the veteran. And this still blows my mind because I'm looking at my veterans the same way. And I'm performing on shows with them and they're calling me to close out shows and go to Atlanta and go to California and go to LA and do stuff. So if I'm in this, I'm in that in between right now.
Yeah.
And so this new generation is looking up to me, and they're like, "Yo, Rashad, I need I don't know about the show. So and so told me about the show, and I'll give my best opinion on it. And I'm like, don't deny yourself the opportunity. Just watch out for this. I always say, keep your eyes open when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back to, yo, Rashad, thank you for that, man. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I'll be listening to some of their bits, and I was like, oh, I thought you were going to go here with it. And they were like, oh, that is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll see them do it and kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, when you give to others, they're going to give to you. They're going to treat you right.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely the case. I first off, I love that you're at this place, dude. I love to hear this, and I want to ask you more about it. But I love that this is where you're at now, because I remember when we were just like all so new and just like hungry and like just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And I love that this is your attitude, because it's the right attitude to have. Like there's room for everybody in this thing. And there's so many different paths. Like, you have like the folks that become headliners. You have the folks that become that do writers. There's fucking podcasts. Like there's a lot of different ways, and I like that that's your attitude, is to give, because I've always thought like, well, if I stick around long enough and then there's this new generation comes behind me, well, I would like to be friends with them too, because that's how you stay relevant.
Right.
Like, the bands that I like that collaborate with the kids on TikTok that remix their song.
Yeah.
They're still doing they still do pretty well. You don't want to close your mind off to
right.
what's new. So I would I want to trace this a little bit. You're hitting mics, you're doing these audition shows. What has the last few years looked like for you as this kind of ascent? When did you notice like the momentum start to build?
The momentum started to really build in my 9th year. So so that's 2011. So like 2020. Wait, it was.
So if you when did you start again?
So 2019 is where things started to really turn. I've got a bigger buzz at my room at Harlem Nights. I'm booking shows, and actually it really happened after COVID, after we started going back in, and people were coming to my show like every I run a Saturday show, so they were coming every Saturday, packed room.
Yeah.
And I'm booking people, and other comedians are hitting me up.
Yeah.
From out of town to have like large followings. It's like, hey, so and so told me about your room. I would love to come by, and I'm like, okay, sure. And people started sending me tapes. People started sending me. They started sending me like links to their sets. And in my head, I'm like, I can't really judge off of this. I have to see you in person, because my room requires the people demand a certain type of energy.
Right. You learned from when we did your birthday show and all those early years of like, okay, I need to book for who's coming to see me, and I need a specific style of comedian.
Right.
I got that. Yeah, you kind of you curated.
Yes.
You learned how to curate a lineup.
Right. So I'm doing all of this stuff on the fly, and I'm really learning from other comedy shows. So every comedy show that I go to, I pay attention to like what they're doing. How are they emailing people? How are they seating people in the audience? Because that's very important. Because sometimes people come in, they kind of like sit on the side or in the back because they're like, nah, I don't want this front area,
right?
Because I'm gonna get messed with. And I just tell people, if you sit in the back first, you're the first person I'm messing with. So like, sit up here. I'm all about energy now. If you give me the energy that you want to laugh, I can get right into what I need to do. When you give me that, we're gonna have a great time. So I'm at this point where it's like, people are hitting me up. I got people that are are fans. They come to every show. Like I have like a not a huge following, but I got good like 35 to like 50 people that were like, "Yo, where's your show? Where's your show? Where's your show?"
That's great, man. No small feat in a huge city like New York. That's
Right.
amazing, dude.
Thank you. I'm really proud of like what I built. Like my spot at Harlem Nights. I've been there since they opened.
Mm-hmm.
Since they like relatively open. It was like I'm going into my 8th year with them.
8 years. Wow.
Yeah. That's where I really built myself.
That's fantastic, man.
That's where I've succeeded. That's where I failed. That's where I've almost wanted to quit.
Uh-huh.
But I kept going. I kept coming back next week because I was like, why didn't this work this week? What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, now I'm like, I can see where the issue was. Didn't have enough energy. I was talking too much in between comedians.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't handle that heckler well, and it made it awkward. I gave them the power. So I was like, a lot of it, I just had to ride it through.
Uh-huh.
You got like, if anyone is listening, if anyone's listening to this that's trying to get into comedy, there's going to be a lot of bad days before it gets good. But if you have somebody that can show you the tools and how to fix things and how to, get back on track when things are falling off, if you have those people, stick with them, listen to them, because they're not steering you wrong.
No, absolutely not. And being kind and good to work with is a plus. That makes people wanna that makes people want to help you. For
that
sure.
makes people want to book you.
Yes, that absolutely has worked for me as well. I'm listening to all this because like I feel like my comedy, the pandemic really slowed me down.
Yeah.
So I got to get my like legs back up. I got, and like my life is so different.
Okay.
So I gotta and I'm really thinking, and I'm really now like in my new material thinking like, how can I be entertaining?
Yeah.
Instead of weird. Yeah. I mean, I love weird stuff too, but it's just like I wanna see what else I'm capable of.
Yeah, you got to be in different circles of comedy.
Yes, that's why I always try to do it like every single room. I never said no to any kind of different room or audience.
And that be the challenge too, because you're like, okay, I obviously know what I look like, and you got to kind of play off of that.
Yeah.
And for me, it's tough for me. I'm predominant. Like my demographic is a black audience between the ages of 24 to about 50, 55. In there, I'm in there. People in that age bracket really like respond to me. So when I'm talking to them, I feel so relaxed. I feel so at home. I could talk to them about anything. But it's like if I'm in a mainstream room and it's like a little bit of everybody in there, it's kind of like, oh fuck, what do I talk about? And now that I'm married, I talk a little bit more about my personal life. I can open up now. And they really respond to that because a lot of them are in the same situation. Like, my wife is a big chunk of my jokes now.
Yep.
Like my mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that in some rooms, in some on some stages with some audiences, like talking about married life is boring. Like they don't respond to that. Like if they're like young and vibrant and single, and
like the hipster kids and the alt kids. Yeah.
You start talking about your marriage, they're like, "Oh, love."
Yeah, I don't have talk about, make references to things I like.
Yeah. So, did you do a TikTok challenge today? I'm like, what does that have to?
Right. Yeah. That's something like I think about. I'm trying to think of a mainstream big comedian example. I've heard that Jerry Seinfeld has a couple of different sets for depending on who's in the room.
Yes.
Like he's got the set for like the young cool kids, and he's got the set for like the old Jewish people.
Yeah.
It's just like you're here because being here is such an effort compared to not being here.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. Let's as we round out here, like I feel like you're gonna have to do the show again because I could just talk to you for hours, dude, because it's been a while, and
yes,
I'm happy to
I thought we were just beginning. I didn't hear.
Yeah, we've been rolling. This has been really great. Like, I like seeing the come up of and the evolution. So I'm really happy to see where you're at.
Thank you.
It's inspiring to me.
Are you still performing though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't quit. The pandemic just like really reduced my frequency, and I feel only recently comfortable like being out in public.
Okay.
Because of Corona, so I'm ready to like reestablish myself in this scene. Is how I've been feeling.
Yeah. See, for me, like when the pandemic hit, I didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like soon as they were doing Zoom comedy shows and doing comedy on IG Live and Facebook Live, I hopped right on.
You hopped right on that.
I hopped right on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did the most crowd work ever through IG Live and Facebook Live. And that's where a lot of my following got built because poets were doing IG Lives and doing poetry and letting people on to read their poetry and stuff. And then I come on to the live as a comedian and I just start riffing. And I'm just riffing on everything. I'm just ideas coming off my head, and I see people commenting, laughing, crying emojis, and I see my numbers go from like 2,600 to like 3,000, 3,500, then 4,000. Like people are like following me, and they was like, "Yo, where's the comedian at?" So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool, man. I love to see that. I can't wait to get back and start doing so. Although I did perform in Paris a couple times last year.
Nice.
That was really fun.
Nice.
That was awesome. That's so cool that Instagram Live like that you adapted to the circumstances of the pandemic.
I had to. I felt like I had a
kind of have to. Yeah.
I felt like I had a responsibility because I knew that a lot of comedians weren't going to jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
And keep their leg. They were like, "Oh, I'm gonna do comedy after the pandemic." I'm like, "No, you're gonna be so rusty.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna know how to like really do know your timing and know your pacing and stuff like that."
Yeah.
So when I got onto the IG Live thing, I just want to keep my comedic flair under me. I'm gonna keep my comedic voice there, keep my comedian voice present, and keep it current.
Definitely.
And so when we did come back to real stages, I'd be ready.
Awesome, man. Let's I would love to ask you some of this. So you were telling me you've done some road stuff. I'd love to manifest a few things on the show here. What's the next thing? You've got this killer room. What's the next thing you want to create in terms of comedy? Is it special? Are you looking to do more road stuff? What's the next thing you want to create that you haven't made yet?
I definitely want to do more road stuff because going on the road, I get to experience new places, new ideas. I get to collect more material and to kind of relate to the people from that town that I'm going to.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely more road stuff. Want that Netflix special. I want it ain't even got to be Netflix. It could be on Roku, Tubi. I don't give a damn. I'll put it on. Look. It could be on Disney
Vimeo.
Plus. Yeah, Vimeo. Yeah. So I definitely want I want to create a special, even if it's not Netflix. I want it to stream on something that people can subscribe to, watch, pay for, share it with people, and just build from that.
Awesome. And I would love to. I want to see that happen for you, man. I want to see that.
Thank you.
Those road gigs, and to learn. I can't believe I've known you for this long and didn't know like you had an acting background. Because even like sitting here talking to you now, you got like the poise of like, I could feel like the charisma, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's undeniable, man. And I just think that you're gonna do good things. Would you ever want to act again?
Absolutely. Actually, I have 2 movies out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, oh man. So my first movie, like it was like it's an indie movie, but
Mm-hmm.
it was my first, like, like official, like supporting role. I had a major part in it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like an action movie, drama, and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So I play like a anti superhero.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The name of the movie is called "And There Were Four."
Mm-hmm.
You can look it up. It's on the streaming platform Tubi.
Okay.
Also, there's another movie that I did by the same director. It's called The Next Step, which is a comedy, also on Tubi. And it felt good being in film festivals.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
It's really
great. My first film festival that I went to, it was a hip hop film festival that was in Harlem at the National Black Theater, which is sadly no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2000. That was in 2021, and then went to Vegas for the Action on Film Festival in Vegas. That was dope.
That sounds dope, dude. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh, I like this. I need to do more of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I have there's another like mini series that's going to be on YouTube that I'm in as well. And then I have a script for like a SAG-AFTRA script that I'm
like
reading
like a SAG low budget thing?
Yes.
Cool. Dude, legit. And you have a podcast as well.
Yes, my podcast is called the Struggle Beard Podcast. That's for dudes who have beards that don't connect.
Oh, yeah, like me.
Yeah. I would say, I have a struggle beard because, it's like bad Wi-Fi in McDonald's. Like, it's just I'm like I try to grow out a beard, it just looks like burnt parsley on my face. It just
I grew my beard out for 2 weeks for a thing I was doing, and I just shaved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like similarly, I just grow like it looks like a lawn that someone like just like poured like acid on. There's just like it's just like gaps, and it's just a whole thing. My wife hates it anyway, so it's no loss to me. But that's awesome, man. And like, and people come to your show because of that podcast.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh man, I'm so glad I got you on the podcast now, because I feel like it might be harder to in a few more years.
Nah, I'll still look. You're definitely gonna have that studio where you're gonna be having folks come through to the podcast, and I would love to come through and just talk about this moment right here and all the other moments that we had and that we didn't get to talk about, and just really like dig deep into those things.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, this has been great. It's been too long, and let's not let this much time pass the next time.
Well, definitely not. Come to the open mic, man, at Harlem Nights on Mondays.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, I'll send you the information. You get a chance to win money.
Cool.
It's a very supportive audience. They literally laugh at everything. Like it's like the comics are very diverse. So you getting up there, I know you'll rip. I know you're gonna walk away with the money. I like it. And every time you tell a funny joke, we have these little bells on our table. Every time you tell a joke, my mom sits in the front. She's got a bell. She'll ring the bell every time you tell a funny joke.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to redeem myself from that birthday show from years ago. If I can make Rashad's mom laugh, then I'll know that I'm back.
Oh, man. And wait till I tell her, like, Mom, remember I did that birthday show at Cafe Addis? He was one of the comics that was on. She's like, what? He was so funny. I'm like, Mom, come on now.
And I understand, Mrs. Bashir. I understand. Dude, thank you so much for talking to me.
This was fun, man. It was fun talking with you, reminiscing with you, going back down comedy memory lane. There's so much. We got to do a part 2.
We do. We'll do that. I look forward to it, man. Thank you.
Let's do a part 2. Yeah.
Sounds good. Folks, some comedians want to get on TV. Some people want to do late night, get a special, do a sitcom. My foreseeable goal for the next future will be to get back up to where I can make Mrs. Bashir laugh and really start focusing on that goal of being able to play to multiple different types of crowds instead of just being able to play to the one type of sensibility. I will always love the kind of surrealistic, surrealistic humor. But I would love to get to a point where I can make a lot of different people from a lot of different experiences laugh. That to me is the joy of comedy. And that was an absolute blast. I want to have Rashad back on again. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you hit up Rashad. Tell him that you want to make sure that part 2 happens. I can't wait to have that conversation because this was an absolute joyful one. Links to everything related to Rashad in the description, as well as tickets to the next Backdoor Barbecue show, April 20th, 7 p.m., April 22nd, 9 p.m. at the Pit Loft in New York City, in Manhattan. Make sure you come check it out. Get your tickets. It's going to be a fun time. And thank you all again so much for being here. That is our show for today. If you enjoyed this and you want to tell a friend about this podcast, I would appreciate that. You can send them to awesomedisaster.com. Has links to everywhere you can get the show. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. If you want to help out the show, not only is sharing the episodes a great way to do that, but if you want to give a subscription, if you aren't already subscribed, that really helps us please our algorithmic overlords. And if you want to go and follow me, I am on Twitter at ComicWillCarry, at WillCarry23 on Instagram. It's a lot of pictures of food and guest pics. And I like to think I'm a joyful reprieve from the of social media. If you want to go a little bit further and support the show, you can go to also on our website. We have a merch store which has a lot of cool unique merch designs, and you can also sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/awesomedisaster. Get access to a lot of stuff I don't put anywhere else, and I will make sure to make that your money goes far. So thank you all again so much for being here, and I will see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, get vaxxed and boosted, and stomp out fascism. Take care, everybody.